All right. Good morning, class. My name is Justin Russell. I'm one of the organizers of Social Media Breakfast. Thank you all for coming. I know a lot of you haven't been here before, but if you have, welcome back. If you haven't, welcome for the first time. We hope you'll be back sometimes. We're not always about education, but we usually have topics that apply to everyone in some way or another. So, welcome and thank you for coming. So first of all, if you're on Twitter, our hashtag is SMBBGR. So feel free to tweet about the breakfast or read what other people are saying about the breakfast at our website, SMBBangor.org. There's a live feed of tweets about what's happening, kind of back channel. Our email newsletter is free and happens once a month at SMBBangor.org. It'll let you know the different events that we have going on so that you don't miss anything in the flow of social media. And we also want to thank our sponsors. First of all, we have our main Bacon Explosion sponsor, which is Machias Savings Bank. We're really happy to have Machias Savings on board and have them support us in what we do each month. So thank you to them. And we also want to thank Stephanie Interactive Media, where I work, for web, mobile, and marketing, and Angela Levesque of Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate for their support as well. So thank you to them. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Gretchen Schaefer to introduce our wonderful panel of educators this morning. So have a great breakfast.
So I'm Gretchen Schaefer, and I'm one of the members of the committee. I also work here at Husson, and I am the instructional technologist, so I work with teachers at our school to integrate technology into their teaching, and I also teach in the teacher education program. So I'm especially excited to have so many teachers here today, because I have a soft spot for education from pre-K to the doctoral level at this point in my career. And just as the power of social media and education, all three of these people at this table I met through Twitter. Deb White has come to my class as a guest speaker. She came up during one of a vacation week and came and talked to my spring semester class, or was it, I can't remember, was it fall or spring? But she came up and hung out in my class and talked about how she uses social media and technology in her classroom. My pre-service teachers appreciate that more than anything. Heidi, I met on Twitter, and before I even met Heidi in person, we had connected our classrooms, and my students Skyped with her students, and her students shared their work, and my students got to see that what I was teaching them wasn't just busy work for them to do to get to the next step in their program, that those things are actually being used in main classrooms. And Jenny, I met in the last year, and we met at Ed Camp. We met through Twitter and met in person first at Ed Camp, Maine in Portland, and now myself and Heidi and Jenny are all working together to coordinate Ed Camp Bangor, which you'll hear about a little bit later today. So I just wanted to share how these people have influenced my own teaching practice, and it would not have been possible without social media. I'm not in the classrooms anymore. I was a teacher before. Not being in the classroom means I don't have as great access anymore. So who do we have here? So starting with Deb. Deb White teaches at the Asa Adams Elementary School and is a past Acton Teacher of the Year, and Acton stands for the Association of Computer and Technology Educators of Maine. Computer Technology Educators of Maine. And she also is the one in 2010, I think, won the International Society for Technology and Education, the K.L. Bitter Vision Award. And so to you guys, that might not mean anything to you, but ISTE is huge to me. And I see Gail nodding, because Gail was my graduate school advisor. She's from UMaine. And ISTE is what all the technology standards are based on. So it's kind of a big deal. She's kind of a big deal. And Jenny Stahl at the end is a fourth grade teacher from Glenburn School. She presented at Pechacucha Bangor in 2014, and she's going to be doing a special event at the end. And Heidi is from Mananocket Junior High School, and she is a 2014 PBS Learning Media Digital Innovator. And I had the great honor to write her a reference for that, which was awesome. And again, I did not know Heidi and would not know Heidi except for Twitter. And actually it was after she Skyped with my class. I still hadn't met her in person. I was in Target, and I heard Gretchen, and so we took a selfie and sent it to my class, because my class has to use Twitter. So they were all impressed that I actually ran into her in person. So it was pretty cool. So we're going to start today with Deb.
Unless you're jealous about the award, I had to wear a blue rosette ribbon like they give to the cows at Blue Hill Fair.
Oh, no.
And they made me wear it all day. If I added 2, I would have had more than a bathing suit. Actum, just a little plug, and I have some cards for Actum, is a wonderful professional organization that you can join for $20 a year. And the professional development opportunities that it presents you are amazing. And every teacher in Maine is a technology teacher, because not just because of Milty, but because we have technology even personally with our phone. And actually this past year, I used more than anything else, and I'll talk about that just a minute. So if you want to know about our conference in October, I have postcards available. And Gretchen talked about meeting somebody in person, a tweeter meeting. Heidi, I met Justin, one of your co-founders, in the laundromat and recognized him by his Twitter picture just a couple of weeks ago. It's kind of interesting. I just came across social media is the biggest gear in the demand generation engine from marketingthink.com. And since I knew this was not normally a teacher audience, I thought this was interesting. A little graphic about physics if you're into that. But the 5 social media gears really struck me as applicable to education too. Reach, getting your targeted message out to your target audience. And as a classroom teacher, that's my parents. I want them to know what's going on. And engagement. I want my parents to be involved in what's going on with their kids, as well as their kids knowing what's going on in my classroom. And the influence is nurturing, and educators are nurturers through and through. So that made perfect sense to me. Conversion, getting your customer to take a step toward buying. Well, they're not buying something financially, but parents are supporting me through their tax dollars, but they're also supporting the learning that's happening and buying into the fact that 12 pages of math problems, of equations, is not necessarily the best way to learn something. So I have to show them that projects, it might be a more engaged way to learn, to buy their learning. And pipeline acceleration, staying close to your customer by delivering the right content at the right time. And that's where I used my phone. With the new supervision and evaluation piece, and actually before I go any further, how many of you are educators? Oh, cool. Very cool. How many of you are parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents? Yeah, okay. So staying close to my customers. I take a lot of pictures and of my students to document learning. I have to provide evidence as a teacher, be accountable for my learning. And at the beginning of the year, I send parents a Kodak moment permission slip that is a CYA also. We have an acceptable use policy, but I push the envelope and I'm an early adopter, and so I often use technology before people even really realize that we're being used. Actually, my first permission slip started when I had a student who had an augmentative speech device. And we had thumbnail pictures of the students on this called Vantage program, but he was taking it home. So there were first names of children with faces going out into the community. And we had never experienced that before. So I wrote up a little Kodak moment permission slip that included student-teacher portfolios. It included my portfolio. It included things like we would use initials with the name, with the image, but we might use student work with a full name. So like this, when in 2007 I first started using Twitter in my classroom, I didn't know what Twitter was. This was written by one of my second graders. The first time she said Twitter, she got a few blank stares, but now that we have done it, we send writing through the air. I was blown away, and my class started, after Claire wrote this, started attempting to write others. I received on the active listserv, anybody bought a Twitter with a class in Green, Maine? And I went, sounds fun. I don't know what Twitter is, but sure, I'll do it. And I proceeded to I set up a class Twitter account. This is more notes for me, but Nathan, and I have permission from his parents to use his full name, was so excited about Twitter that he went home and talked with his father, a local deli owner who now owns 2 places, Harvest Moon. Through the process of setting up a Twitter account for the restaurant, Nathan immediately saw the benefits. He convinced his father to let him start a personal account. Mind you, he's 8. Nathan quickly discovered that he could follow famous people like Barack Obama and Hannah Montana. So Nathan sent a Twitter directly to Hannah Montana. Now, up till then, I'm just embedding things into my teaching about passwords. We don't tell the rest of the world. Our Twitter password is for our class. And you don't tell that to your best friend who's in the other 2nd grade classroom because it's ours. And it wouldn't be fair or right. Besides which, it's against the law, I throw in. And 2nd graders believe that. So this is Nathan's tweet to, we didn't have names like tweet in 2007 where I was making up vocabulary as I went. To @Miley Cyrus. Hello, my name is Nathan and I am 7 years old. So please do not use inappropriate language. Okay? Thank you. I was blown away. We had talked about the playground and being kind on the playground was the same thing as being kind online. That was my digital citizenship rule. You're the same person whether you're online or whether you're on the playground or at grandma's dinner table. You're the same person. This was documented evidence that this kid got that lesson, that you had to be polite and not use inappropriate language. I didn't correct his spelling on purpose. Nathan, you may have seen him also in Penobscot Theater, Christmas Story. He was in that, and he was in To Kill a Mockingbird too. So my Twitter piece, work with the class, turned out to be extraordinarily valuable. At that time, I used Class Blogmeister as our blog, and on Inauguration Day, and at this point we wrote together as a class. Today we watched the inauguration. Mrs. White streamed it from Hulu and projected it on a big screen. I had a projector and a cart that I reserved months in advance from the library because I didn't have one in my own room. Our principal had also rented a giant TV for watching the inauguration in the cafeteria, but I put it on in the classroom. We did our regular work, and then I would just turn up the volume. And we had, I tweeted with Gretchen that day. Here it is, Snappity in Maine. Snappity told us that the best thing about today was watching history be made with my 2.5-year-old daughter on my lap. She thinks the best thing today is the cookie she was eating. Which was really great for my kids to hear perspectives from different age groups. And they each completed a sentence, so writing. I got to see Obama on TV. I wish Obama comes to our school. The best thing about today was that Obama got elected, and maybe Obama did the elected boogie dance. I hope Obama can come to our school so we can see him. The inauguration, I like the band music. I like when they introduced everyone. It is so cool. He's the first African American president. So many of them were about the first. About a black person got picked, and I voted for him. Was one. This young lady did not vote for Obama, but she was pleased to participate in the celebration, and she understood democracy. I actually had to ban too much public talking about who you supported that year, because it got quite heated in 7 and 8-year-olds. We listened to Nikki Giovanni's poem about Barack Obama. We listened to Dave Mallett's song that he wrote about the inauguration. And then we were Twittering. And Kerry Gallivan, who is a teacher in Southern Maine, I had never met him in person, I had just followed him online. he Twittered with us and sent us a picture, and hopefully it's still online because I didn't check this last night, of the Capitol building after the inauguration. So that brought it home for my kids that here was this other teacher in Maine. It could have been Mrs. White. We looked at the new blog, we looked at the old, we looked at a Wordle from a man named Rich White, who's not a relative of mine, and we talked about democracy. And then afterwards we played in 3 feet of snow outside. This was blogging, and it documented the learning that the students did, that they were actively involved in, and they used Twitter to connect with that. It was just a coincidence, I hadn't planned it ahead, that Carrie Gallivan, a teacher from Maine, was willing to tweet with a class, 2nd grade class from Orono, Maine, and he was actually there. Gretchen just happened to catch us
I was home on a sick day.
with her kid and happened to catch this. So people connect on Twitter with their students. But since that year, I've used Twitter as a personal professional development tool. And my Twitter account, look, I'll follow the Bangor Public Library now. So a free printable today, right here, if I'm interested in it. The Huston alum, right there. I get to see right away what's going on in the world, in the greater world. Vicki Davis, an amazing cool cat teacher in the South. Great resources there. And it connects me to articles. And actually that article I showed you at the beginning, the one from MindThink, was from Marketing Think, was a Twitter connection. I have a question, I put it out there. I need a good book for a reluctant reader, boy, 9 years old, lives in rural Maine. And strangers as well as people I know will send me suggestions. I have moved to using KidBlog. A few years ago, I did halftime classroom and halftime technology for first kindergarten through 3rd grade. KidBlog.org, why I like it is I have a great deal of control of what gets posted, when it gets posted. I have, to show you all of that. So if you're thinking of doing a blog with your class, KidBlog is easy, it's free, and there's a great deal of moderation. So on my control panel, I get to choose whether kids get to post right away or whether I get to edit it. I always approve it, moderate it, and I always approve comments. I don't let people just comment. But if I had older students, if I had high school students, I might have different pieces on that. I also check, because I ask parents not to use their kids' names. Hi, Sally, how are you today? Because then everybody knows that SM is Sally Mitchell. And so I ask them not to do that. But I get to look at the comments ahead of time. Do that. And this is also a huge, want to stop me? I see that. So it's the best thing. So Twitter, blogging, and my phone has been my best tool. Think about it, if you're a parent of a kid who isn't the most placid child, compliant child, and you're always getting phone calls from school or letters saying, your kid's in the office again. But if you got 3 or 4 a week of, hey, here's your kid drawing, here's your kid reading, and it's a picture of the kid doing that, then when you get that call that says the kid's in the office, it's not quite so bad. So this is the tool that I use the most recently. So I'm sorry. Yeah, the cane.
This is Deb, so now I'm going to have Heidi talk.
Do we clap for Deb?
Yes.
And a pause for Deb.
mirroring. Okay. Okay. I'm Heidi Harris. I teach in Lincoln. That name of that school is really a tongue twister. It's normal. Nobody can pronounce it unless you've been there a while. But anyway, and I teach 7th and 8th grade. So I guess you're getting a little bit more of lower and middle elementary experience, and then upper. I teach 7th grade social studies. I taught 8th grade social studies and a little bit of ELA, I guess, a time ago. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Edmodo, which maybe if you're a teacher you've heard of that before. And I'm going to talk some more about Twitter, and probably not exactly the same things that Ed talked about, so hopefully it won't be too redundant. So Edmodo, my kids like to call it Facebook Junior. It looks a lot like Facebook, but it's created by educators. It's been out for 4 or 5 years now. I've used it for 3 school years, and as you can see, it's even blue like Facebook, but it's more safe, created by educators, like I said, and students need a password to get into your group, and all the groups are locked or can be locked, and so you can also have parents join your Edmodo groups as well, so they can kind of lurk and see things that their students post. The cool thing about that is that the parents are linked to the students, so they only see the things that either I make public to the group or the things that their students post, so they wouldn't see all of the students. So you can see, I mean, it's like Facebook. So if you're familiar with Facebook, I can post a note, I can post an alert, like don't forget the test is Friday. I can post assignments, and students can turn in assignments on Edmodo, so that's been really helpful. And it actually syncs with Google Drive, the Google Suite as well, so that's really neat. Quizzes and polls, and I've used this tons. And all of my students have Edmodo accounts, which is really cool. The next thing I want to talk about with Edmodo, and keep in mind that I teach, middle school, so it's maybe a little bit different if you teach elementary. And definitely high school and middle school, I think, have a lot in common. But I do some live blogging. I don't even know if that's the right term, because obviously this isn't blogging. But like, for example, this year, the Winter Olympics, I created a separate Edmodo group. This was all optional, but it was kind of cool. So the opening ceremonies were on like a Thursday night or a Friday night, and I created a group. My students got the password to join the group, all optional, and we watched it. Like, I was on my couch at my house, my students were at their house, and if they had internet access and wanted to participate, I had about 40 students participate, which is like 30% probably, something like that. So pretty cool. And we talked about the Sochi Olympics. What did you like? They asked me questions like, I've never heard of that country before. And they just threw it out, and it was so cool to see. And I'd have to hit refresh, and I'd have, a bunch of new replies. But students were interacting with each other. They were thinking about social studies, obviously. Asking me lots of questions. It was so cool. We did the same thing with the 2012 presidential debates, I think it was. I'm trying to think back what year it was, but anyway, so I've done this a few times with some, big prominent events like the Olympics or the presidential debates. And I've also connected with other classrooms using Edmodo. So obviously it's useful for students, but there's a whole nother side of Edmodo as well, where you as an educator can join communities. So I'm on lots of communities. Jenny and I were just talking about, there's a gamification community. I don't know if you know what gamification is. Short version is using gaming aspects to make kids more engaged in the classroom. So we're really interested in that, wanted to start something with that. So we joined the group. So I'm in a bunch of these kinds of groups, technology groups, social studies groups. So I threw something out in the social studies group, like hundreds of thousands of people from all around the world are in this group. And I said, I'm starting an economics unit with my 8th graders. It was like April of last year. About Maine's economy, and I was wondering if another group from another state wanted to do a comparative unit, and then at the end we could compare and contrast Maine with another group. And it just so happens, Lincoln, as you probably know, paper mill town, Mossony, Wisconsin, paper mill town, so cool. Said, sure, we'll do the same thing. They were ninth graders, so it was a little bit different. And my students were like, oh, ninth graders are older than us. And so I created a separate group, and the Mossany, Wisconsin kids, they make notebook paper, that's their paper mill niche thing. And then our group did compare and contrast with their group. It was so cool. And Jenny will tell you similar kinds of experiences like connecting classrooms and things. But Edmodo's one place for that, but I also use Twitter for a lot of connecting things too. So I don't know, if you're not in education, maybe you've never heard of Edmodo, but it's very super cool, and I use it all the time with my students. Some of the high school teachers tell me, like, Mrs. Harris used it, so the high school kids think they're too cool for Edmodo, but the middle school kids like it because they're like, oh, we're on Facebook at school. So Deb's already talked a little bit about Twitter, but I want to talk about how Twitter has impacted me in my profession. Obviously, I use it for personal reasons too, and I don't have 2 accounts. I just go with it. But so you'll see lots of Instagram photos of me and my son at the beach and things like that. But I also tweet a lot about, my job and my profession. And if you're on Twitter, you probably know about hashtags, and there are so many hashtags for everything, including SMB Bangor. But there are lots of education hashtags, including EdChat, that's like a general one. SSChat is for social studies, so if I was saying, hey guys, I want to be connected with I've been actually tweeting a lot about finding experts for this school year, because I teach, now that I moved to 7th grade, I teach U.S. history, like Civil War basically to the present. So I've been looking for experts, so I might tag a question, I want some history experts to Skype with for the school year or whatever, might tag it with SSChat. So the cool thing about hashtags is that if somebody wants to search the hashtag, they can see everybody who's tagged that. So if I'm a social studies teacher and I have a friend who works at, in DC or something and works at one of the museums, they might say, oh, I saw this cool, and they might forward that tweet, and I might get connected that way. So if you don't tag your tweets, if you're looking for something, you're not going to get as far. You need a tag. So think about a tag. There's even EdChat Maine, so there's things specifically geared towards Maine. So I'm a social studies teacher, but there's math chat, there's science sci chat, there's ELA chat. So if you Google them, there's like Google Docs lists of all the ed chats and different days and everything. So I've had a kind of a frustrating experience with social media in my district because we had a really strict policy. And 3 years ago, I wanted to use Twitter as like a blog for my students, and my principal was like, "No way, we can't do that." So I've kind of run up against a brick wall. This past school year, at the end of the school year, they changed the policy. So this year, it's going to be like, woo, I can go crazy now. But it's been really frustrating. So I've been doing a lot, but not really connecting my classroom, other than Edmodo, because they felt like, ooh, Edmodo's safe. It's a scary world up there. But I think everybody's kind of finally waking up. And we're north of here, so maybe I don't know. Anyway, so I want to, and actually there are some teachers that I know from other schools that are doing this, using hashtags specifically. I know Gretchen even does it, like a hashtag for your class. If I was on my regular Twitter account, and I, could do my personal stuff and my regular PD stuff, and then anything that I find that relates to my class, I could have a unique hashtag, and my students could search that hashtag at any time I post something. So they don't even necessarily have to follow me. They could just find my tweets that way. So that's kind of a way around it if you're worried about, oh, I don't want my students to follow me, or I don't want parents to follow me. Well, they could find you if you wanted to stay private with your hashtag. So anyway, think about hashtags or how that you might be able to get that message out. I don't know if you know this, but Facebook, as far as the population that I'm involved with in high school, is the population of users is going down. They're moving towards Instagram and Twitter and things, because my grandma's on Facebook. I don't want Facebook anymore. And so you might, if you're thinking about something, I know a lot of classrooms, in the district where I live and teach in 2 different districts. The kindergarten teacher has a Facebook page. That might be really cool because a lot of parents are on Facebook. But if you want the kids involved, you might consider Twitters and things. I've already kind of mentioned this, but Twitter is really great for connecting. I've put, and Deb mentioned this too, put questions out. I know Jabron will laugh at this, but I was in the need for a tour guide. We were coming to Bangor for a field trip, and kind of at the last minute, I got my wires crossed with the Bangor Museum and History Center director, and we at the last second needed another tour guide for the Mount Hope Cemetery. And I put a tweet out, and Jabron was on Facebook trying to find me something too, and Matt, the director, was like, oh no. And we actually found something through social media. So even like local things, if you need a field trip or you need an expert, think of Career Day, Twitter could be really useful. Instead of making 100 million phone calls, you can put one tweet out with one hashtag, hey Bangor, or something like that, and that could be really helpful. And the last thing, Gretchen's already kind of mentioned this, but Twitter was how we met, and I've met a lot of a lot of people, a lot of people say, oh, you don't know your Facebook friends, or you don't know your Twitter friends, and we teach our students, say, well, that's not cool, but at the same time, Twitter, I know so many really cool people just on Twitter that I don't know in real life, and educators especially. I have followed so many new blogs in the last 5 years than I ever did before, just all through Twitter. Twitter is amazing for professional development. If you're not on Twitter, you should be. Between Edmodo and Twitter, I just feel like I've gotten so much smarter just from connecting through those. And Gretchen's experience connecting my classroom as 8th graders, the same year that we did the big economics project 2 years ago with Wisconsin, was connecting with her college students with my 8th graders. My kids were the experts. The college kids were asking my kids, what tools do you use in the classroom for technology? And they were asking tons of questions. The kids were like, this is awesome. We feel so smart and we feel important. And that's so empowering.
When we first scheduled it, it was a snowstorm, and so Mattanock had a snow day, but Hudson did not.
Oh, yeah.
Every one of my students showed up, and normally my students would say, oh, it's really snowy and I can't get here from the dorms, but every single one of my students showed up, and they were so, like, sorry, they're not there at their school, so we're going to do something normal, we'll see them next week, but every one of my students, they said that was their best learning experience.
Yeah, and I remember she told me afterwards, we had turned the Skype session on as my kids were coming in the classroom, so it was so powerful to see, not teachers yet, to see my classroom management and to see the little, the murmurings of the kids as they're coming in.
It was after lunch, so they're all coming back from lunch.
Right, so this is the 8th graders. So that's my little spiel on social media and the power of it. Thank you so much.
And now Jenny. When you want to spin that around, just let me know.
At Heidi Bobidi.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Oh no, my screen's exploded. How do I make it small?
The green plus. Should be better.
Yay. That doesn't look right. Okay, we'll roll with it. That's cool.
I was just say that's what I was.
All right. To teachers, the first thing I want to say, and if you leave with nothing else, leave with this. Joining Twitter is probably the thing that has improved my teaching the most. It's free. You can connect with teachers across the country and across the world. If you know nothing about Twitter, I would be happy to speak with you afterwards. We'll get you set up, or I can show you mine, and we can kind of show you the whole hashtag thing. And any teachers already have a Twitter account? A couple? Okay, awesome. All right. So teachers, I want to talk to you, but I also want to talk to some of the community members as well, because you might be sitting here wondering how any of this is relevant to you if you don't have students or children in schools and still want to be involved. There are a lot of ways that you can help, and many of those don't cost money. One of the things that I learned about through Twitter was using Skype for different classroom applications. I'm sure many of you have used Skype to connect with loved ones who are away or grandchildren or whatever. But Skype has a whole education section where you can go on and look at different lessons that people are offering. My class last year had a guest speaker that was a scuba diver. He had been scuba diving all around the world and showed my class pictures of the different animals he had seen and showed us maps of the different places he had been. We connected with the night zookeeper who did this whole creative writing lesson with my students. So if you're a community member, if you have expertise in some area, you know, if you are a history buff and you'd be willing to talk with a class, you can go on there and kind of give a little spiel about yourself and say, here's what I would like to talk about, and teachers can seek you out. Skype is also great for mystery Skype. If you have seen my presentation about mystery Skype at PK, I'm sorry that you're hearing this again. But the cool thing is you'll actually get to try a mystery Skype today. Has anybody ever done one before? Has anybody heard of one before? Yay, okay. So in about 5 minutes, we're going to get set up to do a mystery Skype. What's going to happen is we're going to call this teacher, who I also met through Twitter. He's part of my online professional learning community now. So I'm going to give you some ground rules. On your table, you have a few resources. You have a list of 10 questions. All of these questions are yes or no questions. You don't have to use these, but these are the basic lists that I give my students. You can use them, you can deviate away from them. It's totally up to you, but it has to be yes or no. If you look at question 10, it's scratched out. Anybody want to take a guess as to why I scratched that one out? If you look at the other questions, why number 10 is something I don't let my students use? I'm trying to do my wait time here. It's not a geography question. So the other questions involve some type of geography skills, but number 10 I think says, does your state have 2 words in it? That has nothing to do with geography skills. So I don't let them say, you know, does your state begin with a consonant? Does your state begin with a vowel? Or anything like that. So your questions should be geography related. You will also see a list of the 13 original colonies. That is sometimes a question that gets asked. Maybe you have a better answer than me, but my class has a hard time answering that because Maine was part of Massachusetts Bay at the time, so it sort of was and sort of wasn't an original colony. So we kind of give the other class a bye on that. If they ask us that, we'll say, please ask us something else. You will also see a time zone map. So that might be a question that you want to ask. Are you in the Pacific time zone? Hawaii and Alaska are not on there. They're kind of off in their own time zone, so if you want to do your best pencil drawing of Hawaii and Alaska, you can feel free to do that. Maybe some of my lovely assistants could come around and hand out these big laminated maps. So you have some wet erase markers on your table, and those are for you to update your maps as we ask questions. So the very first question on that list is, are you east or west of the Mississippi River? So you can fill in one of those, because it has to be a yes or no question. So if you say, are you east of the Mississippi River, and they say yes, you'll take your wet erase marker and cross off everything west of the Mississippi River. Does that make sense? Yes? I'm going to go with yes. Okay. So we can ask as many questions as it takes for us to guess the state of our mystery Skyper. Any questions before we start? Do we want to take turns asking? What do you want to get this set up? Do you want to start turning it around? I don't need it. No, but I'll call them to say it. Any questions before we start? Do we want to raise hands and I can ask the question? Do you want to come up or shout them out from your table? Any preferences? Shout. Shout it out.
Sorry, Dad. Nope, that's my fault for just being all over the board.
Do you think I'll need these? It's close to the speaker.
I'm sorry, some of the maps aren't as great quality, but I only had 14 students last year, and so we didn't
have room or need for all these maps. So sorry if you got a dud, but maybe you could use the time zone map in coordination with one of your other maps.
All right, I think you're all set. I plugged in your.
Okay. All right, here we go. Hi, Bill.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Bill's guessing from home today, it looks like.
Yes.
So we've got a room full of teachers and community members alike. None of them have ever done a mystery Skype before. Some of them have at least heard of it, though. Can you see everybody?
Yeah, I can see everybody.
Okay. So I don't think you're going to ask us questions. Is that right?
No, because I know where you're calling from.
Right. Being part of our PLC, we kind of know where each other are already. So we'll give these guys the full experience. We'll give them all the airtime.
That works for me.
All right. So everybody, this is Bill.
Hi,
Bill, this is everybody. Who wants
Hi, everybody.
I've only given them some basic general rules. What would you like for your first question?
Original 13 colonies?
We'd like to know, are you one of the original 13 colonies?
Yes.
So we're going to give you time to use your wet erase markers to kind of coordinate with that list of 13 colonies that we gave you. You can update your maps.
That narrows it down.
Yeah, kind of. So once you update your laminated maps, if you want to just give me a thumbs up, okay.
Can we only ask questions from this list?
No, you can deviate from the list however you want. As long as it's a geography-based yes or no question. Yes, we're working on our geography skills. Sorry. Okay. Are you a New England state?
No.
He is not in New England, so if you want to update your maps, and then we'll ask our next question.
Started yet.
Not geography based. Let's give people a second to update their maps, and then I'll get right back to you.
Yeah. South Public Schools started, North Public Schools out. That's geography.
Has everybody updated their maps? Yes? Okay.
Does the state border one of the Great Lakes?
Does your state border one of the Great Lakes, Bill?
No.
South of Virginia.
Okay, let's update our maps, and then we'll come to that one.
Does your state border more than one state?
Oh, sorry, we had a question over here.
South of Virginia.
Is your state south of Virginia?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
That was a no.
Thank you.
You're gonna get this one quickly now with that 13 colonies.
Yeah, usually my class starts with a are you east or west of the Mississippi River?
Yeah, that's what my class usually starts with, because it makes it take longer.
All right, are we ready for our next question? What do we have? What would you like to know?
Does the state border the District of Columbia?
Does your state border the District of Columbia?
Nope.
Bill, does your state live tweet when they mystery Skype?
No,
No.
because we don't have access to Twitter in school.
You're one of those schools.
Yeah, I'm one of those schools.
I tend to ask if they're doing stuff afterwards.
Oh, Kelly, we've been following each other for a long time. I just figured out who your Twitter thing is. Oh, lady, shoot, I know her for years ago.
Anybody have a question for Bill?
Part of the Eastern Shore. You're right there.
Are you part of the Eastern Shore?
Yes.
Yes. Bill is part of the Eastern Shore.
So I have an answer.
Have you narrowed it down to one? Okay. Has everybody narrowed it down to one? Okay, so usually I have my class ask all together because, you know, they all want the glory of figuring it out. So how about I count to 3 and then you can say, are you, and then fill in the state that you think it is. Is that okay? Okay, we're ready to take a guess, Bill.
Go for it.
1, 2, 3. Are you New Jersey?
Yes.
Yay!
Sorry.
Oh, we've got some pity for you for being from New Jersey.
I'm sure from up there.
Would you love to be up here?
Okay, the Eastern Shore is considered Delaware, Maryland, Virginia.
Oh.
Threw me off.
Oh.
So we're talking about the Eastern Shore or the Eastern Coast.
Oh, see, I was
The
thinking
Eastern Shore
Eastern
is
Coast
a
too.
geographical region, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia.
See, I was thinking the Eastern Coast.
So was I, Bill, yeah. Oh, good to know. Good to know.
That's good to know, though.
Yeah. All right. Any questions for Bill or before we hang up?
I do. I have one.
Go ahead, Gretchen.
Hi, I'm Gretchen. So what would you want to tell a room full of teachers and civilians? What is the number one thing you get for using social media in education?
Get to be connected to people like Jenny in the room, and the fact that I get to do all these fun different projects with my students.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, one more thing. Bill and I have worked together before. Bill from New Jersey, and then our friend Paula from Louisiana, and myself and a few others. We did a Google Hangout to talk about Donors Choose, which is another great social media tool that both teachers and community members might be interested in. So Bill is one of the people that helps get me set up on my Donors Choose. Yes.
Does New Jersey have any sort of social media breakfast opportunities to get teachers to integrate with the business community?
Good question. Somebody would like to know if New Jersey has any social media breakfast opportunities where teachers can connect with community members and talk about social media.
No, but I know it's in the works with an organization.
Good to know.
It's awesome. Come up here on vacation sometime.
Your Twitter handle is
Hold on, I'll put it in the chat box. It's WKRAKOWER.
Anything
Yeah.
else before we let Bill go?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Bill. Thanks for getting up early and hanging out with us.
Have a great day.
No problem, thank you. Have a good day.
See you later.
Bye.
So this is his Twitter handle if you are interested in having it. So again, I didn't get to talk to you about Donors Choose or Google Hangouts or Twitter really, but if you want to talk afterwards during the schmoozing time.
Yep.
Okay. I am hooked without anything bad happening.
So, one of the reasons why I thought it was great to have both educators and community members is that you can see how because I kind of straddle both worlds, classroom teachers are often looking for experts to come into their classroom, whether it's virtually or whether it's in person. I'm working on getting a biology professor to go to Jenny's class to talk about cells, for instance. And on Twitter, I'll often see, like, does anybody know anybody that is a specialist in this field that our classroom wants to talk to them? So there are opportunities. I know that sometimes people who aren't in the schools wonder how they can help in the schools, aside from writing a check, which is always nice. But what can you give back to your community or your school, and it might be just you have expertise in something that you want to share with them. And for teachers who are looking for those experts, social media is a great way to find it. One that Jenny didn't mention, Jenny was looking for someone to come in and talk about the political process, and so on Twitter, and I said, well, did you ask Ben Sprague? At Ben Sprague, and Ben Sprague came to her class and talked about something. What was it? What Ben Sprague talked to you about? Was
Being the mayor and the general process of election.
being the mayor in the general process of election. So they had an expert come into their classroom. And so it's finding a guest speaker, but it's using your network to find that speaker and not just cold calling somebody. And maybe because if he didn't know Jenny, but he knows me, he trusts that I'm sending him to somebody who's not going to waste his time. So that's another use for social media and education. We would also like to talk about, just briefly, especially for the educators in the room, we're going to be hosting here on campus an Ed Camp on October 25th, which is a Saturday. It's going to go from about 9 to 3, and it is an unconference. So has anyone been to an Ed Camp before? We have. Heidi and I met at the park and ride at 6 a.m. to drive to Portland for an Ed Camp on a Saturday. And Jenny was down there, she had friends, so she stayed the night before. And the first thing that, at the end, the first thing we said is we need to do this in Bangor, because I think we were the farthest north people that were there. So what it is, there's no keynote speaker, there's no scheduled presentations. It's an unconference, so you start the day with a blank schedule and you talk about what you want to learn about or what you want to share. So Jenny might say, I will talk about Mystery Skype. So, hey, I'm interested in Mystery Skype. I'm going to go and listen. We're going to just have a conversation about it. It's not a formal, pick your sessions. You make up the program on that day. You choose to go. If you go to Mystery Skype and go, this isn't what I thought, I'm going to go to another session. You go to another session, and it's very open. For those of you who are business people, we are going to be looking for sponsors to sponsor our continental breakfast and lunch, if anyone is interested in sponsoring Ed Camp Bangor, and also we'd like t-shirts for the volunteers who are going to be kind of staffing it. So we will be sort of putting some stuff out there. We have a website out there. You go to tinyurl.com/edcampbgr. You can find us on Facebook with edcampbgr. We're on Twitter with edcampbgr. But you're going to be hearing more about it, and it's after Actum, so you'll hear about it at Actum too, which is also a great conference. I go to that every year just as an educator.
Actum 15 will not be in the Deep South in Augusta. Will be right here in Bangor at the Cross Center. So
I can bring my students.
A great deal. Yes, and we want to use your students. So come get a taste in Augusta and then live the dream in 15.
So that sort of wraps up. Does anyone have any questions for our speakers? Feel free, we have the room till 9:30 and we use it for networking. We have a fresh carafe of coffee if you need another shot before you start your day. Please feel free to help yourself to a cup of coffee. Come up and ask us any questions. Talk amongst yourselves. But thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Social Media Breakfast. Anything else, Justin? We're good?